Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. This video is about creating functions and procedures and use them in the database. Functions and procedures are database objects that are called named blocks. Named blocks means blocks with names. So when you create a function must have a name. And when you create a procedure, this procedure must have a name so that you can use it by that name, execute it with that name, or you'd like to search for it in the database. You can search for it in the database by that name that you have given during creation. What does that mean? Does that mean that there are some programs that they don't have names in database? Yes, there are some programs in database in PL/SQL that they don't have names, like the anonymous blocks. Anonymous blocks. The word anonymous itself means it doesn't have name. We have done that in the video that I have created to explain the triggers. Before creating the triggers, I give you some PL/SQL blocks. Those are the blocks without names. Here also I can log into my screen here. By the way, you know how to log into the command line, right? So command line PL/SQL. So if you put cmd when you have the Express Edition installed in your computer, then you can actually type cmd to bring the command line, and then type sql plus, and then press enter. This will ask you to log in. You can use the same login that you used here. So here, for example, I logged in. So remember, when I was here, I entered this Apex like that, and then I logged in with my name and my password. Now I am here, and then I can actually use SQL commands, and I can do PL/SQL commands here. So this is the same as using this environment by putting my password right here, and then this will logs me in to this SQL prompt command line. The difference is that here, unlike graphical user interface, in the graphical user interface, you don't have to set the server output on because automatically it is on. But here you have to type set server output on. That is SQL plus command to set the server on before creating the blocks. So now I would like to give you an example that differentiates between anonymous blocks, that means blocks without names, and blocks with names, like functions and procedures. In this one, for example, if you create a block starting with declare, declare a number, variable number, and with the data type number, you can assign it to a value like 7, for example, and let me create number num as number, assign it a value like 7, and then begin. So this is declaration part, which have one statement here in declaration, and then begin. And in this body, I can type a statement like dbms underscore output dot put underscore line, and then here you can actually display that number, or vnum, or vnum, for example, multiplied by vnum. Any statement that you can do inside this begin section, and then end, and then execute or run, type slash to execute it, and this one will give you 49, which is 7 multiplied by 7. So now this one, it doesn't have a name, but I can create a name, of course, for it. If I created a procedure on this one, I can execute that procedure by typing execute procedure name, and I can retrieve it with a name, as I will show you in a minute. First, let me show you how you create a function. Okay, a function. This is a syntax for creating a function. Create or replace. You can say create function like that, but if this function name exists already, then it will tell you that the object already exists in the database. But or replace, it will replace even if you have this name already exist, it will replace it. Then you have an optional parameter list. If you don't have parameters here, you don't have to. You can just keep it as an empty parenthesis after the function name. Retain type. Retain type. Retain type means retain data type. That means the data type of the retain value. So if it is retain number, if the function retains a number, you put number here. If it retains text or varchar2, then put it here. Retain varchar2. If it retains a date, then type retain date. So here, return, and then the data type for the retain value. After this statement, after return and the data type of the retain value, is or as. You can type is or as. They both work. Is local variables. So if you have local variables, you declare them here with their data types also. So you have to use data type after the retain value. So if you have a local variable called vnum, like the previous one here in this example here, then you type vnum and then number, which is its type number. If you have more than one variable, then declare all local variables should be declared between is and begin, because in the begin section you're going to have the executable statements only. And then end, you can type end like that, no problem with that at all, but it is advisable to mention the function name. Why? Because when you end with a function name, then if you have a package, for example, and you have many objects in that package, like many functions and procedures, you would like to know which one end where, which function end at which line. So you would like to actually mention the function name so that every function is ending with its name. Sometimes functions are having different tasks, but created with very similar names. Then you have to actually use the function name to end every function before you start another. So this is a general syntax for creating a function. All right. Let me give you an example. This is what we call a named block. Why named block? Because it has a name. This is a function name, whatever name it is. Let me give you this example of a function in which let me explain here before I execute it. This function here, create or replace function. The function is to convert temperature from Fahrenheit to centigrade. Okay, so for example, I have a function. I have a degree 100 degree Fahrenheit. This one could be converted to 37.78 degree centigrade. So this function job is to convert any Fahrenheit temperature to centigrade temperature. Okay. Okay, so let us look at the code. Create or replace function. So this is the command. and this is the function name. I would like to call it temp_conf, temp_conf. You can call it any name. What is this inside the parentheses? This is the parameters. I would like to pass in a degree Fahrenheit, and then the function will convert that degree Fahrenheit to degree centigrade. So this is the value here, 100, which I would like to pass it later when I execute this function. I would like to pass it to the function. In number means the data type of this degree Fahrenheit is number. We don't use is here inside the parentheses, we use in number. If you have more than one parameter, then you can put a comma and then mention another parameter in and then the data type and so on. So if you have, for example, another value as retain as the parameter list variable, then you can put that one and then put in and then its data type, like for example varchar2 and so on. If you have another one, then mention it here and so on. So now we have only one variable to pass, which is the degree Fahrenheit. Its data type is number. In this syntax we have three data types. The data type here of the parameter, the data type here of the return value. Because return what? What is the return data type? The return data type is number. What am I returning in this function? I'm returning degree centigrade. So now this is answer the question, or what is the degree centigrade? Is it a character? Is it a date? Is it a number? The answer is a number. So put it here, return number. Return the return value of the return. This is the type of the return value. Is, or you can use as I said. This is the local variable. The local variable, I would like to declare a local variable, call it degree centigrade. Let me use lowercase, because I would like to keep the variables in lowercase, and I would like to keep the name of the function in lowercase, just for convention. Alright, so this is the data, this is the local variable. It's called degree centigrade. What is this one? It is the data type of this variable is number. So this is the data type of the parameter, which is degree Fahrenheit. This is the return type of the value that I'm going to retain, and this is the data type of the local variable, which is the degree centigrade. Why am I declaring it here? I'm declaring it here because I would like to use it right here in the executable part of the function to assign it to this formula. This formula is 5 degree centigrade equal 5 divided by 9 multiplied by degree what? Degree Fahrenheit minus 32. Okay, so the formula will convert the degree Fahrenheit and store the value here into degree centigrade, and then the return what? Return this, return degree centigrade. So I'm returning this value after I calculate it with this formula. I'm returning it, but this is to end the function. I said you can end it without the name, but it is advisable that you can just put that name there, whatever name it is. So this is my function. Let me copy this code and paste it into here, into my this environment, and I would like to execute. How do you execute this block? You have to put slash, forward slash, and then press enter. Here it is, function created. Okay, the function is created with this name, and it is going to be there in the database. You can drop it by using drop function and then put that function. It will be dropped. If you execute it again, it's going to be also says function created. Why? Because here it said create or replace. That means it is going to actually replace it. Every time you execute it with a slash, it is going to do it. Also, run, it will execute it, but the difference between run and slash, run will show you the code and then execute it. All right, now how do I use the function after I execute it? You can use select. For example, I can select it from select. For example, let me select 100 and select 100, and then I would like to pass 100 to this function. Select 100 and then 100 as a parameter to this function which is already created. From what? From dual. The dual table, I use it to test any calculation or any formula. So this one will actually give me the 100 that I have selected, and will give me 37.7778, which is the converted degree centigrade. Because if I put 100 minus 32 multiplied by 5 divided by 9 will give me this one. I can also use round function. Here, if I put round, I can round that to 38 because it will round it to the nearest decimal place. I can use, instead of this one, I can use an alias in my select statement like this one. So for example, can I put here Fahrenheit for this one, and I can put here centigrade from dual. I can round to 2 decimal places, for example. Okay, so this one will give you 100 Fahrenheit equal 37.78 centigrade. So I am calling the function within what? Within a select statement. This is one way of using this this function. If I have a table, for example, I have a table. Let me create a table. Create table called days or weekdays with day as varchar2 4 and Fahrenheit temperature. I would like to actually create this table as Fahrenheit temperature. Also, I need to have it as number, the data type number. So this table is created. Let me describe it. Describe weekdays. This is how it looks. Day and Fahrenheit temperature. Let me insert some values. Insert into weekdays values. For example, let me put Saturday. I have 98 degree, and then let me put Sunday 96. Another one for Monday 94. Another one for Tuesday 93. Let us insert more for Wednesday and make it 97, and for Thursday 97, already. 98. Okay, so let me see. Select all from week days. So I have these 7 days. So I'd like to select all. Let me select Fahrenheit temperature, and okay, select day, comma, Fahrenheit temperature, comma. Okay, now I'd like to call my function. Remember my function, what is called my function? The function is called tempconf, right? Okay, here it is, tempconf. So here I would like to put my function, and then I'm going to pass a parameter. Guess what? I'm going to pass this parameter as the column, Fahrenheit temperature. All right, from weekdays. So I would like to show the current Fahrenheit temperature and its equivalent centigrade temperature. So it will give me the weekday and its Fahrenheit temperature and its equivalent centigrade temperature. I can put alias to organize my output like this one. Here, for example, I put here an alias like Fahrenheit, and here I can put alias as centigrade. Okay, so that my output will look better. So this is Fahrenheit temperature and this is centigrade temperature. Also this one I can round. I can round the whole thing here by using round function. Like if I put round, and then here round the whole thing to 2 decimal places, for example. Okay, and execute. So now I have a nice output. The days of the week, the Fahrenheit temperatures that I have already have in the table, and then the equivalent. So how these are changed? They change because of this function that I've created to convert every single one that I pass for this table, which is Fahrenheit temperature. All Fahrenheit temperature have been converted with this calculation. So now what I did here is I created a function, this function, and this function converts everything here. I used it with the select statement, as you could see here. Then I used it within a database table, so that I can, to show you that I can actually, a function you create, you can actually use it with the database in a select statement. You can use it with a procedure as well. But this time I would like to show you how you create a procedure and then how to use a function within that procedure. So let me first go to the procedure syntax. How do I create a procedure? And what is a procedure? A procedure is a procedure, or is my procedure. I have okay, let me show you the syntax of creating a procedure. Create or replace a procedure, which is look like this. Create or replace procedure, then procedure name, and then this is also optional parameter list. So if you have parameter here, but I'm gonna put parameter. If you have parameters, as this one for local variables. If you notice that here I don't have retain value because a procedure does not retain any value. A procedure actually it is executed to do specific execute a specific program. So here as local variable. So in the procedure you use, it is preferred to use is in the function, but in the procedure, when you create or replace procedure, use as, and then after as, between as and begin, create a local variable and put the data type of that local variable. If you would like to use that local variable here, then declare it here. If you'd like to use it in this statement, like this statement for example here, then you have to declare it with the data type. This data type, it could be a character or number, whatever, or a date. Begin, and inside begin you have the executable statement. Executable statement like this one, dbms underscore output dot put line, the centigrade degree is, and then you put the function. Here I'm calling the function within the this procedure. So here I'm going to call it here the statement inside this begin. We have the statement, executable statements, and then end what? Procedure name. So this is the general syntax, guys. The general syntax: create or replace procedure, then procedure name, optional parameters, optional parameter list, optional parameters. If you have, put. If you don't have, leave it empty, like the previous function. Like functions, procedures have local variable part to declare between as and begin. All local variables should be declared with their data types. Unlike functions, procedures, they don't have a return value. They don't have a return value, and then they don't have a return type. So they don't have return type and they don't have return value. So here you just have the executable statements and then end the procedure. So for example, this statement here that I would like to create this procedure. Call it procedure temperature. Why am I creating this procedure? I'm creating this procedure to call a function. So I told you before that a function can be created to be used with a select statement or to be passed within just a normal block, or could be called within a named block like a procedure. So here I have the procedure called process temperature. I am passing to it the degree Fahrenheit as a number. In number means the data type of this degree Fahrenheit number, same like in my function, as degree centigrade, degree centigrade number. That means the data type of this variable is number. And I'm going to and there is no actually need for this. Why? Because I am not actually using it. What I'm using is I'm using the degree Fahrenheit only here on this parameter. So just put as and then begin, and then this is the executable statement like that. So I am trying to tell you that the centigrade degree is, and then pass wherever you pass inside this one. So for example, if you have a variable or a value to pass it when you execute the procedure, then you put it here inside the procedure when you execute it. So let me execute this procedure. So procedure is created. The question is, okay, I know how to execute a function. I know how to call a function. Here I call the function within the select statement, as I did call it right here. But here, how do I execute this? I cannot just use a select statement, and I cannot just call it in a vacuum. I have to execute a procedure by doing execute and then the name of the procedure. The name of the procedure. The name of the procedure is pros. Then here you pass a value. If you'd like to pass, for example, 97, then this is the value that you would like to have it as an argument. Here it is called an argument, which is to play the role of this parameter. Okay, so here it will give you like the centigrade degree is 36.11, which is this one is going to be converted by that function. Then the result of the retained value of this function will be used within this statement to give you this statement. The centigrade degree is 37.78. Any value you can just execute it with any value. So if you put, for example, 100, it will give you 37.78. So because any value you put here as an argument is going to be converted by this function, is going to be rounded by this function round, and it's going to be displayed just like this. So this is basically how to create a procedure and how to use it. Use it by using execute. Although a procedure also can be used with the blocks, which is this is a different topic. How to create the block, and then within that block you can actually have all functions and procedures within that block. Then you can execute the block, and the block, once you execute the block, you are implicitly executing all functions and all procedures. So these examples show you how to create functions and how to create procedures, and maybe I will give more examples of creating functions and procedures in a different video. Thank you so much.